Alrighty, guys. Well, I never thought I'd be saying this. And you guys, it's on the record, I did a trailer thoughts segment on a previous episode of the Access Blockbusters Pod where I looked at the trailer for the animated MCU series, Marvel Studios series, I'll say, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And yes, I said, what's the point of this? It doesn't look good. I don't understand why they're making this. We had just come off of What If Season 3, and What If Season 3, I think by far the worst season of What If, just not a big fan. And I said, why? What is the point of this? Not to say animation is bad. I mean, my favorite movie of all time is animated. It's Inside Out. So no, I love animation, but for me, the kind of animation that Marvel was putting out, maybe sans X-Men 97, even then, I wasn't X-Men 97's number one fan. I liked it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. But I mean, my thought was, this is the whole quantity over quality thing that we've gotten so upset about over, for Marvel, because they've just been putting out so much content, right? And so they've been striving or moving away from that quality over a quantity kind of mindset, and they've just been putting out too much. And I'm like, why can't we just put the resources into making one really good animated show or one really good animated movie or something like that? But anyways, that was my thought when watching the trailer. But then, as I do with everything, I talk about it all the time, go into every single movie, every single TV show with an open mind. And so I went into the first two episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and I was so surprised. I really liked them. And from there, the show just kind of took off, guys. And lo and behold, we have come to the finale, and I'm surprised as anyone else. I'm a little bummed, This is the end of the first season, and I know that we have 2 more seasons at least of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man coming, which is a good thing because I actually am looking forward to season 2 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Is this, now, up front, because this is going to be a spoiler discussion of episodes 9 and 10 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So if you haven't seen the final 2 episodes, just make sure to save this segment, save the podcast, or whatever medium you're listening to for later, and then come back to it once you have, because we'll be talking about these last 2 episodes in full spoiler discussion. And if you don't care about spoilers, then welcome. But anyways, like I said, is this the best MCU, Marvel Studios piece of content I've ever seen? No. Is it the best Spider-Man piece of content I've ever seen? No. Is it even the best animated Spider-Man piece of content I've ever seen? No. Probably not. I'd probably say Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse are better than this. But for what this series is, a series to showcase, a Peter Parker that is pretty adjacent to the MCU, get to see a lot of fun characters in there, but also tell a really good story and have the core essence, the core elements of what Peter Parker is as a character, what makes him compelling as a character. This really worked. And to showcase the Rogues Gallery, to showcase all different sides of these characters, Coleman Domingo played a great Norman Osborn. So I think this show is a success. Now, success in terms of, at least my opinion, and I think critics, because I think critics generally seem to like it. I hope audiences do as well. Ratings-wise, I don't know. It's renewed for 2 seasons, so we'll see. I think it'll definitely get a season 2, and we'll see about season 3. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what the ratings are, but I hope that the ratings are pretty strong, because this certainly deserves 2 more seasons, and compared to What If, for example. But that's, we talked enough about What If, and What If is not coming back for the foreseeable future. So anyways, let's talk about episodes 9 and 6. I took notes as always. They're not as extensive as, for other TV shows, but we'll just go through them kind of quickly, and then we'll talk about my thoughts on the whole series at the very end. I already did a little bit here, but, just kind of wrapping up at the very end. So episode 9 starts out here, and we get Norman really, really taunting Octavius. It was Octavius was getting mad, and Norman was just continuing to push all of his buttons. And that was a little bit, pushing towards Norman's bad side there. So anyways, then we get this truck chase where Lonnie and the gang are heading after an Oscorp truck. And I thought for half a second that the truck was actually going to hit Nico, which would have been terrifying. But Spider-Man catches the truck, and he has a great suit. It's a very, classic red and blue suit. It reminds me of the Tom Holland suit. Great suit. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And then we get a Scorpion fight between Spider-Man, Scorpion, and later Tombstone. I really like how formidable Scorpion is here. It makes him really credible as a villain. We haven't seen Scorpion in live action yet. We've seen Matt Gargan, but we haven't actually seen the Scorpion. So I'd be interested to see him now. I think more so now after Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man than before. So then Don, the leader of the gang, he quits, he leaves. That, to be expected. He really wasn't a person of high character. And then we have the classic Spider-Man villain origin story, although Tombstone, I don't know much about him in the comics, so maybe he's an anti-hero. I actually just assumed he was a villain. I really don't know much about him. But, it's the classic sort of Spider-Man villain origin story where kind of chemical accident or whatever, so he gets imbued with a bunch of power, and honestly, it just has super strength. I don't know anything about Tombstone. So you guys will have to let me know if this is the most incredibly faithful adaptation of Tombstone you've ever seen, or if he eventually evolves into becoming something else and he has, a costume or whatever. I know he ditches the jacket at the end of the show. I don't know anything about Tombstone. What I do know is that I really appreciated the amount of development and the amount of time they spent with Lonnie as a character. That much I very much appreciated. But other than that, I just don't really know that much about Tombstone. But he has super strength, and that's all I know. So then, we see Peter, he's fighting back against Scorpion, and we get to see that Rage Peter. It's very, very similar to the end of No Way Home, right? Where Lonnie is the one who stops him from from going too far, just like how Toby kind of stopped that version, Tom Holland's Peter Parker, from going too far and killing Norman Osborn. Speaking of Norman Osborn, Norman is giving him a pep talk, and he's saying all the right things. He's like, "You held back, Peter, and that makes you a hero." And then you're kind of like, is he good? Is he really good? And of course not, because Norman is using the blood. I guess he got Spider-Man's blood, which was, if you guys remember, a big thing in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 from Harry Osborn, right? He needs Spider-Man's blood, and he's trying to recreate Spider-Man's DNA. So I thought, okay, so probably getting into Green Goblin territory with the blood. It went a little bit in a different direction, as we'll talk about here in episode 10, but I think that is probably still where they're going to go in season 2. I'm sure we're going to get Green Goblin in season 2. We'll see about that, though. So episode 10, I like the opening here. Peter balancing his school responsibilities and being Spider-Man. That is classic. And then we get to really the crux of this finale here, where Norman Osborn has taken all the interns' projects and built a gateway to space. Now, honestly, this is probably not my favorite thing about this episode. I would have thought a confrontation between Peter and Norman would have been a little more interesting, because that felt thematically more appropriate. This random gateway to space, and look, I like Strange. I like Strange as much as the next person. I mean, this person, this Strange wasn't voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, so it wasn't as impactful. But anyways, I like Strange. I like Doctor Strange as much as anyone else. But it felt kind of disjointed. It felt a little bit separate from everything. I like the concept. I like the idea. Once I kind of caught on to what they were doing with the whole time loop thing and fulfilling your destiny and whatnot, I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting. It doesn't make a ton of sense, and I don't quite get how everything works here. How, Strange opens portals, but they're portals through time as well. I don't know. Maybe it was using the time stone. I just completely missed it there. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I almost thought it was an alternate universe Strange at the beginning, because Norman was like, you're the one who destroyed Midtown. And that Strange was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I don't know. I like the concept of what they were going for at the finale. It didn't really stick the landing, in my opinion, but honestly, the show was really solid enough at this point that I was like, yeah, this is fine. It's totally fine, and it's not going to sink my enjoyment of the show. But it's a kind of a time loop, which is an interesting thing. The Venom creatures come back. I think we get to see the Null Planet, where all the Venom symbiotes are, and of course, the little black goo shows up at the end. I don't know if it's intentional that they're really paralleling a lot of what the MCU has been doing, and not paying off as well. I mean, in Spider-Man No Way Home, the little black goo comes from the Eddie Brock version of Venom, and so this is sort of a similar thing here, and we see at the very end that Norman Osborn has the Venom goo, so we'll see. I'm sure we'll see Black Suit Spider-Man in season 2, and I'm pretty excited about that. Also, Daredevil had a spy in Oscorp the entire time. Didn't know about that. The ending is really a lot of setup for season 2, including Peter's dad. They came out of nowhere, so yeah, a lot of setup for season 2 and a lot of stuff to come. But yeah, it's just I'm sure we'll get Peter and Pearl and Nico is talking to the spirit of her mom. A lot of random things. I think this episode was probably not as strong as I would have liked it, because I think it was just trying to do a little bit too much and go a little bit too far outside of its own scope. But again, it still had its enjoyment, and I still really enjoyed the series overall. Guys, like I said before, as we wrap up my thoughts on this series as a whole, this series had the essence of Peter Parker. And that's really all I could ask for, right? The story was really solid all the way through. That's, again, something that the MCU live-action shows have had a really hard time doing. So I'm really thankful that this show was able to pull it off. And the Rogues Gallery, it was really fun seeing all of those villains. We're going to get to see more of them, I'm sure, in the future. I'm sure we might get a version of Dr. Connors as the Lizard. I'm sure we'll get Norman Osborn as Green Goblin. We'll get the full Dr. Octopus. So many, many more classic villains. We got to see Scorpion. We get to see Tombstone. We got to see Chameleon a little bit. A version of Rhino. So I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man is my guy. He is my favorite superhero. And I'm so happy. I'm excited that this show, actually got made. And again, I did a complete 180 after my initial impressions, but that's why you go into these projects. This is a clear and classic example of this. Why you go into these projects with an open mind and just willing to embrace whatever happens. And there was a chance I didn't like it. And if I didn't like it, then I talked about it and we moved on. But that didn't happen. And thankfully, I really enjoyed the show and I can't wait for season 2. So guys, what did you think of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? Were you convinced by this show? Did you kind of, was your mind changed? Or did you feel the exact same as you did at the beginning? Let me know in the comments down below.